Okay, call this meeting in Wayne County Commissioners to order. We have Commissioner Burns with us by telephone, and so good morning, Commissioner Burns.
Good morning.
You're coming across very clear and loud and right into the WCTV camera, no problem at all. So
Danny, periodically Ken will check and make sure you're still available and haven't fallen asleep or otherwise.
Did you hear Ron okay?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. We are doing something new here today with COVID-19. We're trying to comply with all the rules and regulations of keeping 6 or 7 feet apart. And we have one of our commissioners at home, and due to the governor's rulings, we're able to do this by phone this way. We are capable, if we have even just one person or all 3 of us currently with the current regulations, we could do it all by phone. So this is something new that we're trying out today to see how it works. And as this progresses, I'm sure down the road eventually we'll learn even more about how to do video conferencing that we can do, and the Skype that you can do from home that we can all see each other and hold meetings on there. So I will call for approval or any corrections to the minutes that we have of March the 18th.
Move for approval.
I'll second that.
All right, unanimous?
No, you can't do that now.
What do we do?
You have to take, every vote has to be
By roll call.
not
That's
by
right.
voice.
Okay, we'll start over again with
You
the
got the
new
motion in the second.
Yes, I have a motion, the second on the floor, and so would the clerk please call the roll
Yes.
for approval of the minutes?
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mrs. Butters?
Aye.
Mr. Paust?
Aye. Okay, approved. Is there anything else that I
think
did
you
remember
did.
that when you mentioned it, that we had to do that. Okay. We also have on March the 18th, a memorandum of board communications of actual meeting or place was in the Chamber Admin Building, 401 East Main Street, and attendance was Paust, Butters, Burns, Cross, Clouser, Higginbottom, and Fields. We covered COVID-19 health emergency and general discussions and policies as to what we were going to be able to do with all the COVID-19 regulations that were coming down to us. So I would look for a motion to approve that memorandum.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Call the roll.
Mr. Burns, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Butters?
Aye.
Mr. Paust?
Aye, approved. And you can attest to these then. Beth, okay. Got that. And one item that we need to discuss before we get into Attorney Cross on there.
We have claims.
Yeah, let me do claims first. All right, go ahead before we move on to this. I'm sorry, I didn't see them there.
Is it
Okay.
permissible
We need
to
to-
make one motion to approve all 3, 2 payrolls and 1 claim? Yeah, good.
Okay.
I move for approval of payroll of March 13th, payroll of March 27th, and claims of March 25th.
Second.
Mr. Burns, your vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Butters?
Aye.
Mr. Paust?
Aye. Unanimous.
Commissioners, one of the, if you will, one of the concessions that the governor and the Public Access Council have and the State Board of Accounts have agreed upon is that for purposes of payment of claims, if you so choose, you may designate one of your membership or even the auditor to approve the designated claims that we've got in an ordinance that exists already that allows this to happen, and then that you just have to approve them at the next public meeting. I'm not suggesting you should or shouldn't do that. Keep that in mind if it becomes an issue and we get time crunched.
Well, that would come in if I hope it doesn't happen, but if all three of us would
Good
get
to know.
sick,
Yeah.
now, would we have to approve that ahead of time, I would assume, before we got sick?
Well, you have in place a motion that allows that to a limited degree. I might want to take, a policy, a resolution, I'm not sure which it was. I may need to take a second look at that.
Okay, why don't you do that just in case, because
There's a
we're...
statute that deals right with it.
Yeah, we're susceptible. That happened to us of getting sick, so, okay, all right. Thanks, Ron. The other thing before I go to Ron, the president of the council did talk to me about currently at this time of putting kind of a temporary hiring freeze in that the way we're set up currently at this time, if you have a line item and person left, as long as they hire another person at the bottom of the scale on there, they could move forward on that. And council wants us to temporary, there may be some extenuating circumstances that would come up that they would say go ahead, but at the moment they wanted us to kind of put that temporary hiring freeze in there until this COVID-19 thing kind of passes by. And so I said I would bring it up here today for discussion amongst the three of us on there. And their reasoning as they look at it is one that the security folks that we use have shut their business down, so they're not up and functioning currently at this time. So we can't do the background checks, different things that we normally do for new employees on there. And so I said, okay, and I'm not sure if there's any other HR complication that Kim has
Well, there would be, the
run into.
background check would also include some testing at Reed. And although Reed did not say they wouldn't do testing.
Or the drug testing on there, yeah. That, well, it makes sense. Anything that we can take off of the pressure Reed Hospital, I certainly think we should do at this time. So I don't know that we need a motion on that or not, but we could do that, and I'll get the word out to all of our departments that temporarily, unless there's some extenuating circumstances, if there are, to contact HR, and then we would work with council as to whatever they would need to do in that case on there. So I'll do whatever your wish is.
I don't know exactly what you're saying, because should we have an individual who does resign in a critical position, such as in the sheriff's department, public health, coroner, buildings and grounds, we have essential positions.
And that's what I said. There could be some extenuating circumstances where we would, in just what you're talking about, that we would try and go ahead and proceed with that individual. But basic, if one of our departments, if somebody leaves on there, at this juncture, council would rather not to try and move through the process to hire those folks.
Again, you say council. Council has not met. We do not know the opinion of council. We know the opinion of the president of council.
Well, I'm sure he's been in conversation with other members of council.
Well, council will be meeting next Wednesday, right?
The last I heard, they're going to meet by phone. Telephone.
It's still a meeting. They're going to have to
They're
convene.
still going to have their
They're gonna have to
meeting, but they're going to do
convene.
similar to what we're doing by telephone. Yes.
Rather than establishing a policy, I mean, we're talking about a policy of a hiring freeze. And
Temporary.
I feel that many of the departments of county government are essential. And
All of our apartments are essential.
to establish a hiring freeze means that we would have to take some action which could be cumbersome to get an exception to that hiring freeze, which I presume would mean that the commissioners would have to go to the personnel committee, which we have always experienced is a cumbersome action, okay? You know, it takes usually weeks and not days
Well, I would think if it was one of those extenuating circumstances by phone, that they could do it pretty rapidly if it was a very, very critical situation. And as you well know, those can't happen.
You see, we're in an emergency situation, and because many of our departments are performing essential duties, I am reticent to concur with the President of Council that we concur with his desire to establish a policy, which is the Commissioner's job to establish a policy. That is not a fiduciary matter. That is a executive policy matter. So, Denny, I don't know how you feel about this, but if, for example, we do have correctional officers or public health employees who are in kind of high-risk jobs, or buildings and grounds, people that need to continue to work, or if, God forbid, the highway department does have high exposure. We are in a high-risk world right now.
And those would possibly be the exceptions that I talked about, that if we had one of those, that we would work with everybody involved to try and move that and refill that position.
I do not see any reason to self-impose a cumbersome requirement to have to seek an exception to a self-imposed policy at this time. I would like to be able to be nimble during this emergency period to fill a position which we as commissioners feel is a need to fill in a rapid fashion, rather than having to go through the cumbersome council approval process through their personnel committee. Why should we impose a cumbersome policy upon ourselves? So I would not favor the council president's request for that cumbersome policy.
Denny, you have a comment?
Yes, I do. You're referring to only those situations where they're replacing an employee that's already in the salary ordinance and they're starting them at the bottom of the scale, and that in those conditions they don't have to go to council to get approval to replace that person, but they do have to come to commissioners to get that position filled. So I believe that we could act on every individual case as they come for permission to refill that.
Council's asking us to give up that commissioner prerogative and have a hiring freeze on any and all positions, if I understood what you were saying, Ken.
Yeah, basically, due to the complications and in that, and that's what they were asking to do. And, you know, I think we can work around this, that if we have something, and Denny, you're right, absolutely, they can come in and they can tell us, you know, and replace a person at the bottom of the scale on there. They've just asked at the moment to try and do a hold on there.
I don't want to give up that prerogative. Do you, Denny?
Denny?
No, I agree with Mary Ann. As long as they have to get special permission from the commissioners, I believe the effect would be the same, because you're proposing that we can hear everyone that wants an exception. Why don't we just hear everyone that wants to use that procedure?
Okay, that's fine. All right, good. We have, I'm going to move on. We have our Christine Stinson, our Public Health Officer, with us. I know her time is very, very limited. And she said if she could break away, she'd rush over here, and hey, we certainly do appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks for seeing me. Just to give you a general update, there was some confusion with the ISDH dashboard, and it took our number from 1 to 0. So I'll explain what happened there. It was a clerical decision to move that patient to Fayette County, to their number, because they felt like he had spent the majority of his time in Fayette County and not Wayne County. So it's really just a clerical procedural thing that ISDH did. to move him. We had already done the case investigation and the contact tracing of that individual. So anyone that had close contact had been already contacted through our investigation. I really don't understand why they decided to make that move, because I felt like it just added confusion to both of our counties.
Right.
But I've been in contact with Fayette County and also been in close contact with Franklin County. Every morning, we have an update from Reed Hospital, so we know what's going on. That's a phone call with several counties, not just Wayne County, but there are several counties on that phone and a lot of different people. Dr. Jetmore's in that, Dr. Ryder is in that meeting. So we were in close contact with the hospitals, knowing where we're at in as far as a number of beds that we have and things like that.
Okay. Marianne, do you have any questions?
Yes, do you have any reason to believe that any Wayne County residents have been diagnosed of having the coronavirus?
There are several Wayne County residents that have been tested and the results are pending. There are several Wayne County residents that are hospitalized right now that are suspected of COVID-19.
Are any Wayne County residents hospitalized outside Wayne County?
I don't know.
Would we be informed if they were hospitalized eventually through ISDH?
If they're tested and it comes back positive, that would be reported to Wayne County for contact tracing and case investigation.
Do you have any indication about the age range or gender or any demographic information on those who are hospitalized?
I know we have one pediatric all the way up to geriatric. So it's a wide range of age groups in there that are being hospitalized.
And can you give us the number that are hospitalized and pending on test results?
I can't.
How long are the test results taking?
It depends on whether they're going to the ISDH laboratories or they're going to private laboratories. ISDH is getting a much better turnaround time, but we're still waiting probably 72 hours to get the results back from ISDH. Anywhere from 24 to 72 hours on turnaround from ISDH. If it has to go to a private laboratory, it's several days, 7-8 days we're waiting for test results.
Last week, we were told that 15 Wayne County people had been tested. Is that number still the same, or has that gone up?
It's gone up.
Can you tell us how many have been
I
tested?
can't. I don't know that exact number. Because the hospital's not the only place that's testing. Doctors can test if they have the ability to get the test from a private laboratory. They can do the test and submit it to a private laboratory. All the testing sites are not sending how many people are being tested, but if any of those come back positive, it goes into Wayne County's basket, and we do the case investigation no matter where they were tested. Whether they were tested in Delaware County or Wayne County, it goes to Wayne County if they're a resident here. That's where you saw that shift. The one individual they felt like was more of a primary resident in Fayette County versus Wayne County. So it goes to county of primary residency.
Sure. And data can be shifted along that, but
It can. It doesn't change our response at all. The number of positive that we have. We know we have COVID-19 in our community. Many people daily call our department wanting tested. They have all of the symptoms for it and they want tested. Unfortunately, in the state of Indiana, as most places in the United States, we're under testing. There's not enough tests available to test everyone that has symptoms of it. So we're telling you, if you feel like you have COVID-19, if you have those symptoms of COVID-19, regardless of whether you get tested for it, you need to self-isolate. You need to stay home. If you think you have it, act as if you do have COVID-19 and isolate yourself. Get out of the public, and we need to slow down the spread of this epidemic in Wayne County, because we do have it in this county.
But they should contact their primary care provider. Is that the recommended first action?
Always contact your primary. Don't show up anywhere. Chances are, if you show up and you're just exhibiting the symptoms and you're doing fine, you will be sent back home to do exactly what I'm explaining to you to do, is to self-isolate, stay hydrated, rest, wash your hands often. relax, don't go out in public, self-isolate yourself out of the public, have someone else go to the grocery stores, go get your necessities from someone else, and you probably will not qualify for the testing. They're saving the testing for the sickest of the sick, the ones that are being hospitalized and put on ventilators. Those are the ones. We have several people on ventilators at Reed Hospital right now. It's imperative that the community follow the directions of not only the President of the United States, but our commissioners and our governor and our health officer, Dr. David Jetmore. Stay home. This 2-week period, stay home. We're trying to not overwhelm the healthcare systems.
We are looking to you for guidance for taking any further action. We're at a level 2, which continues to allow people to travel for essential needs, and enforcement, and companies are shut down except for those very essential needs. And we'll continue to look to you should we take even more stern actions. At this point, do you think we have taken action strong enough?
I think when Governor Holcomb came out strongly with the stay-at-home order, and we have upheld that with our own, that closely monitored his, although his was even more restrictive as far as non-essential businesses are to close. I think that we're doing everything that we can do. If we can get the public to understand the severity of this pandemic that we have, and how quickly we can overwhelm our healthcare systems. We know people have COVID-19 in this community. We know people will be hospitalized in this community. We know people will die in this community. Regardless of what we're doing, we're trying to limit the number of people that do die from this. And what we do will save lives. It will save lives. And if we can keep the number of people out of the hospitals, our hospitals will be able to better care for the ones that do get sick and have to be in the hospital. So that's what all of these precautions are doing. And we understand how difficult it is for the community. And probably the most difficult thing that we did, of all the restrictions that we put on, was the gatherings for funerals. That was personally, to think about the ramifications of that, but that's how severe this epidemic is. And when you think about just the nature of mourning, how you allow people to gather for that, you would never stop that transmission, and we could comfort each other to death. So that's why it was imperative that we stopped having gatherings for funerals. And I'm putting out a little bit more directives in a press release today, kind of some of the calls that we've been fielding at the health department, and giving better reasonings as to why public health is doing what they do. Not just here in Wayne County, but in the state of Indiana, in the nation, and what we've seen that has worked in the past. We can look at history and see what worked and what didn't work, and we're trying to mirror best public health practices.
Well, Christine, you're doing an excellent job. I certainly appreciate what you do. I know the hours are long. Christy and I are in constant contact.
Yeah.
Even last evening, late, we were both talking with each other, and the task force that you have is working very effectively, and I know you're in constant communication. I know Reed Hospital, all those folks that are involved are talking to each other all the time, and the cooperation has been just excellent, and the communication's been very good, and I thank you. I know you're really busy. I think you've given us a good report.
Okay.
I know you have other things that you really need to do, so we do appreciate you coming in very much, and so I'll ask Matthew if he might have a few things through EMA that he'd like to have.
Well, I am very proud of this community. For someone that have just stepped in a very, very difficult time, the frameworks that you guys have, the cooperation is very, very, I have a very fluid relationship with the executive branch of the community, a very fluid relationship with the EMA, with the mayor. I couldn't have been more welcomed in a very, very tough time in this community. So I do appreciate those open communications.
You're the right person.
I
You're the right
that.
person at the right time.
I appreciate
sure
it. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Matthew Kane, Emergency Management.
I don't have...
PPE.
Yes, that's right. I don't have a whole lot to add. I wanted to offer to Director Stinson my availability if she wanted me to be here this morning just to kind of update. Things are kind of, I hesitate to say status quo, but we're supporting the health department in whatever needs that they have, and we've helped orchestrate a couple things behind the scenes to try to keep those communication lines open and flowing between the variety of agencies involved in this. Communication and education is power. So the city was kind enough to offer their media relations individual to assist us, and she's helping compile information for social media posts, and so we're all making sure that we send out the same message, and that has been a huge help. That just developed the first part of the week, so that's been a huge help, and want to thank the city of Richmond for that. But from our agency standpoint, we still have strict health screenings in place for our employees in the 911 center. They have to go through a screening process every time they come into work. We're working very closely with Human Resources and Dr. Kraft, our medical director, and getting some policies in place for the return to work should they become ill. That's a concern. They're considered first responders, so they fall under a different guideline by the CDC. Then it's very difficult for us to quarantine someone for 2 weeks. So we're in the process of putting those measures in place, following both the CDC guidelines and the directions from Dr. Kraft. We've tested our backup communications center, mobile command. Worst case scenario is what we're thinking. God forbid something happens in the 911 center and we have illness. We have the mobile command that is up and ready. It was fueled up the other day. Computers tested, connections tested. Our backup rollover phone system was tested, and all successfully is working. I just needed that for my peace of mind, if nothing else. I hope and pray it does not get to that point. But I also needed to be able to say and stand up in front of you that we had done those types of things in preparation.
Very good.
So that's where we're at kind of from our standpoint.
From a manpower standpoint, Matt, if you had a person who became symptomatic, one of your dispatchers, is your immediate plan to fill that person's position by extended hours of the remaining, or do you have people available to be able to come in on an on-call basis?
We do have, we have already policies in place to fill a vacancy should someone call in sick just before all this started. And we do have a mandatory overtime policy as well. My concern is if we get multiple people sick, that won't work. We have looked at what some other agencies are doing throughout the state. They're doing emergency plans and emergency policies to decrease their level of staffing. You know, we have minimum staffing standards where we don't want to drop below a certain number in the room at a time. And so some have looked at creating policy that actually allow that number to go lower.
Volume of calls, is it up?
Surprisingly, I have been compiling data and sending that to both the hospital and the health department, kind of looking at it from a pre-hospital standpoint. I'm very happy to report that our numbers are very much average, if not decreased right now. I look specifically at EMS calls for service and then the overall calls for service at the end of the day. And we are very much average, if not decreased. I did just get an email from Dr. Kraft this morning wanting me to look at some numbers. I kind of started tracking this the 10th of March, I believe, and she wanted me to look a little further back in February and January just as a baseline to make sure. But I reassured her we would be the first ones to see that start to spike if they come through 911. Now, a lot of people are doing what they're being told, thankfully. They're using their primary care physician, the free app that Reed has. They're going through the respiratory clinic at Reed Hospital like they're told to and directed to, and so thankfully we aren't seeing some of those numbers, whereas Reed's stop gaps that they've put in place, I haven't seen any numbers, but I think I forget what Ryan said the other day, but the respiratory clinic has been very successful thus far. So,
And do you have alternative transport to ambulance as they do in some other communities?
alternative transport to ambulance.
Yeah, the Indianapolis metro area has stopped transporting by ambulance for COVID suspected patients because of the necessity to sanitize ambulance, kind of a big deal when you're transporting COVID suspected patient. So they have started transporting by not an A, not a B, but kind of a C-level transport. Is that something?
Very limited knowledge in that area because that's not my bailiwick anymore, but I do know that the State EMS Commission issued some waivers yesterday that might be, I did not read those in great depth, but I have a feeling they probably waived some of those requirements in being transported if I were guessing. But those would be questions for the Richmond Fire Department and Red Line and some of our private services that we contract with, because I don't know what they have in place.
Maybe if you could look into that, because if we do, as Christine was kind of giving us a warning that this might pick up in days to come, it could relieve the transport situation if it does not have to be ambulance-level transport. Just sanitizing a van instead of an ambulance, for example, could be perhaps more practical. Because that's what's occurring in larger cities, and it might give us some relief here too.
Sure.
All right, Matthew, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you
Good
coming
question.
in.
When we last met, there was, of course, urgency about making the application for PPE grants and that. So can you give us any update on where we stand? Are we fully
Well, from
out there for request, even though I know the numbers are small?
Our responders have shortages throughout the county. We had to report that to the state Department of Homeland Security by 4:30 on Monday, which was done. We sent our numbers in at noon to them. The request was accepted, and that's all I know.
Okay, just wanted an update. Thank you.
Quite frankly, I don't anticipate seeing a whole lot coming to the first responders just yet, as I believe the focus is on hospital and healthcare systems. And
Good news is our numbers are not off the chart. The
Not
bad
yet.
news is neither are supplies.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Absolutely.
Matthew. All right, Ron.
The only thing I have today, Commissioners, would be the Resolution 2020-002. I have not made any substantive changes. I think I picked up a typo or two from that which I sent out yesterday. Did you get a chance to look at it, Denny?
Yes, yeah, it's good.
Yes, I've got it, Ron.
Okay. The attempt is to memorialize the takeaway from the meetings of Monday's meeting and any discussions that were had preliminary to that. So unless you have questions, I will tell you it does not address the issue, because I'm not aware of any consensus by either council or commissioners on whether those folks who are reporting to duty or are working from home during what is essentially a closure period will be additionally compensated beyond their regular pay. That is an issue that has been identified, but has not been resolved. This does not address it, so if there were to be action taken in that vein, or determination made in that vein, it would require subsequent documentation to satisfy. Again, I don't want to create a false sense of urgency on this resolution per se, because what we're doing is really documenting that which you did by your motion on Monday, and this is just to appease, if you will, the State Board of Accounts when it comes time for their audit and follow their guidance as to what the resolution needs to say in order to satisfy their memorandum. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, throw it open for any discussions.
You know, in looking at it, Ron, I spent some time last night going through it, and actually, you're pretty complete with what you did. I thought you did an excellent job on putting it all together of what we did.
I think a point I would want to make, because I am aware there's been confusion generated by innocently, but there's going to be confusion when you have multiple speakers, not necessarily talking from the same sheet. The second bullet point, or second paragraph, all county offices are to remain open until further order of the Board of Commissioners. And each office shall have at least one person physically present during regular business hours. Now, that was a source of confusion for some.
I think we've got it all straightened out.
But this excludes, obviously,
911,
the local judiciary, and
right.
since they have issued their own order and under the authority granted them by the special order from the Indiana Supreme Court under Administrative Rule 17. So they have, their press release relates to the availability and the openness, if you will, or the schedule of openings that the courts will maintain, at least during the foreseeable future.
Mike, you did get your copy of that, did you not?
Of the what?
From the courts, that they're going to be
Yes.
open Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays?
Yes.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to make sure you had that.
Could I have
Okay.
a copy of that too?
Yeah, we can get you a copy of
I
it.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Yeah, I just need to have one.
But-
No,
Okay.
I've never seen anything from your meeting.
I just downloaded it from the judges, sent it out to all the members of the bar.
Is he still there?
How are they handling arraignments? Is that when they're doing that?
Well, they're doing that on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay.
That's what they're doing, yeah.
Their office is still open though, 5 days a week.
Their offices are still open, like we have the clerk's office over there for one, IT is over there. Those offices are open, the same as the ones in the annex. If you specifically have something for that department, you need to call them, and they'll set up a specific appointment for you to either come in, or they will meet you, and they'll take care of your individual needs. Those folks that have child support payments, if you have any questions on that, call the clerk's office. She'll instruct you how they're handling the child support payments and everything. So they are prepared to do that. I can't tell you exactly what the clerk's policy is on that, but call the clerk's office, and because those payments still need to be made to the clerk's office.
Are temperatures still being taken?
I think on the court side that they are still taking
Okay.
temperatures
And
there,
at the
yeah.
annex, we're taking temperatures of visitors?
Of visitors,
Not employees.
right.
They're self-screening.
They're
Employees are
self-screening.
self-screening, I
That's
hope.
correct, they are.
Here's,
And we have the equipment when they come in. If they didn't have it at home, they can do it here before they go to their place of work here in the building. So we've provided all of that to stay up with that, So, oh wait, Mary Ann's reading that press release right now. Give her a second. Yeah.
I have a question or two.
Okay.
As to the clerk's office, that's one that's generated a lot of interest from a lot of people, particularly those in real estate, the title searchers, what have you. My assumption after Monday's meeting was that that office would remain open. However, certain otherwise essential functions are, if they can be done, are going to be done online, for instance, voter registration, things of that nature. Is that accurate?
I did talk to Debbie this morning. She had some other questions on there. We didn't talk about voter registration, but she did tell me she had everything in place on there. And then on the days that court was in session in there, she had the individual person who is in charge of an individual court. They had those in place, and otherwise, on the days they were off, they were at home, but on the court dates, they were there so that they could continue processing everything. And I don't
What about
know.
the accessibility of the office? That's the
The
fundamental issue,
office-
because that was the essence of what you commissioners ordered
Right.
on the
and-
23rd.
and
They closed up yesterday?
No, no, no.
Well, I think there
no.
may have been some misunderstanding yesterday. I'm more concerned about going forward,
Court. She does have the office open, and.
not just the 3 days the courts are open.
Right, the other
That's-
2 days,
that's the
that
point.
office is open. Her
That's the
office
big
is
point.
open all 5 days is open, but on the days the courts are, which told me, sorry, she has extra people in there to process all the paperwork.
I understand.
With the
I
courts,
understand.
yes. But the office is open on the other days, and if you need something, all you gotta do is call, and set up an appointment or something, they'll take care of
That's
whatever it is.
cumbersome, but it's working, and I think it's
working,
appropriate.
yeah.
It's, people are going to have to go out of their way a little bit.
I have been very pleased with all of our offices as they have thought out of the box, you know. I know in one of your areas, Ron, you were concerned with the abstracts and so on, and the recorders and them, and I know those folks have been on the phone out of our office talking to the folks, and yesterday when I talked to the recorder of what they were doing on there, she went through her whole process with me of how they were working it, and was very pleased. They've talked to all the folks because they know who they do business with on there. They have it all worked out, and the folks that are working at home, they're processing everything just like they normally would, and they're very pleased with what they're doing, and everybody's adjusting and working together. So it's working very well, and you know, we're learning a lot of things out of this as to, especially with technology, of what you can do now that you don't have to have face-to-face at the counter like we have always had. So we're learning more and more of what we can do online, and so...
One point I would make in the resolution that does go beyond that which was discussed Monday, I'm kind of killing two birds with
Yeah, I
one
saw
stone.
that.
Is the picking up on the announcement by Mr. Joyce as State Examiner of the State Board of Accounts as it relates to the mandatory deposit of public funds.
Right.
Typically, under the statute, public funds receipted by usually our treasurer and forwarded to the treasurer.
Has to be the same day.
Need to be deposited by no later than the close of business the day after receipt. So if they come in at the very last minute, you don't necessarily have to. Mr. Joyce has relieved that obligation by allowing the executive body to authorize deposits of public funds on at least 2 days a week, and that's basically, if you do 2 days a week, that would be Tuesday and Thursday, unless obviously one of those dates might fall on a holiday, in which case the deposit would need to be made on the next business day subsequent to the holiday. It requires that the treasurer secure those funds on days when the deposits aren't made and maintain internal controls as expected by the State Board of Accounts to document the treasurer's actions. So that's added to that, but I think it's probably something that, now I have to confess, I haven't talked to the treasurer to know if she wants this authority or not, but if she has it, I don't know that it hurts anybody. I mean, if she's still going to do her daily deposits, more power to her.
Okay, all right. Very good.
We have done that just simply because of the reduced manpower in the office.
Pardon?
We've gone to that 2-day deposit just simply because of the reduced manpower in the various offices.
It's working. I know when you mentioned the treasurer's office, she's been putting her plan together for tax time as we're thinking ahead on there. So everything is getting in place, and we're even going to have a new post office box that will be placed out on our south parking lot here. We ordered the box is in, and we're securing that box now. That's going to be put into place, and so folks will not have to come into the courthouse, or into the annex rather, to make their tax payments. They'll be able to do it online. They'll also be able, or not, well, they can do it online too with credit card, but they can deposit that in the box that we'll have out here. They'll also be able to use Wayne Bank and First Bank Richmond in their drive-through to pay taxes also. And I know she's working with the clerk to the possibility that, and I'm not sure they have all the details worked out yet, but the child support payments can be made in that box also. So we're thinking ahead of all the different things that will be coming up here, because none of us know exactly how long this may
And
last
again,
for us.
a point of potential confusion, but a clarification. Real estate taxes and personal property taxes are still due on May 10 and November 10. Now, there may be some waiver of penalties if not paid, but this isn't the same as what the federal government and the state of Indiana have done in deferring the time when income tax
It was due.
taxes will be due, or would have been due. April 15th has now been deferred to July 15th for income taxes.
That's correct.
Not
Not
personal
federal.
or real estate taxes.
Right.
Federal and state have been deferred.
So you're
Still
saying
there?
Yeah, Denny's still here. I can-
taxes are due May and November.
Real estate and personal property taxes are still due as scheduled. Don't
But-
get that confused with the deferment that has been granted state and federal income taxes.
But the 5 and 10% penalties
That's addressed in one of the
will
governor's
not be assessed.
11 executive orders. I'm not sure which one.
I don't know either. There's so many of them now.
I didn't see if any of them came out of yesterday's press
I-
conference. but-
They're due, but the penalties will not be assessed as previously scheduled.
I know the treasurer in a WCTV interview went over all of that with them. So I would suggest you look for articles in Palladium Item. Also look for the In Focus with the treasurer of Wayne County, who went through all that process because she had all the information, she had it all written down so she could read it correctly on there. So it is confusing. Ron's right, it is confusing. And so, you know, if you just think about not postponing, just pay your taxes on time and you'll all be okay. But you do have a delay there. I'm not sure, Ron, there's so many pages. Do you have it there?
No, you're back to the resolution.
Oh,
We have
okay, I've still got it here. Yeah, we haven't.
I do have a question on page 3, paragraph number 7, subparagraph B, where it reads, "All on-call employees shall be able to report to their regular workplace." Not that I suspect this would occur among any Wayne County employees, but it has occurred in other counties among on-call employees.
That's why it's there.
Yeah.
I would like to discuss the advisability of inserting a word in that first line of paragraph B to include, "All on-call employees shall be able to report unimpaired to their regular workplace." How do you feel about that?
I think that's probably a very good suggestion.
I'm okay with that.
No drinking.
Or drugging?
I will make that insertion.
Okay, Denny, you have any questions on the resolution?
No, I'm ready to make the motion if Mary Ann is.
Okay,
I have one more question. Also on page 3, paragraph number 8, the last sentence that begins, the third line from the bottom. It struck me as redundant, but I just want to ask Ron if I'm reading this redundancy wrongly. Where it begins, "The authority," at the end of paragraph number 8, "the authority herein granted shall expire." I was thinking, shouldn't that be a separate paragraph, but then
No, that's
this
just
authority
because
is just regarding the treasurer's authority, right?
the deposit, because that's,
The
I lifted,
depository authority.
I lifted that language verbatim out of Mr. Joyce's
It was
memorandum.
just a cursory question. I just wanted to confirm with you
I would
that there is no redundancy because that authority in the last paragraph overall shall remain effective until further order of this board.
Yeah.
Now, my overall question is, we know we have not addressed the extra compensation that may be given to those individuals who are being given their regular pay for continuing their regular work during this emergency, while some individuals that are working in the adjoining department, or even in some cases, employees who are normally working beside them but are working at home or working on call, are not working beside them as usual. We have not yet discussed or formed a policy regarding how those working at their workplace may or may not be given extra compensation.
I believe I pointed that out, that this resolution
Right.
doesn't do that.
It doesn't do
So my
that.
question is, how
That's,
expeditiously must we adopt this resolution?
well,
Like I said, again, there's no sense of time urgency per se. I think we want to get it done, and if not this week, then next week, fine-tuned, if you will. But I think that's an
that's
issue
a
that...
council issue.
That's an issue that involves council, because it's going to
Right,
involve...
that has fiduciary impact in a big
Right,
way.
yeah.
Well,
Because there are a lot of
It would
essential
involve
employees.
amendments to the salary ordinance, and that's the way it's been handled.
So I guess my question is, it seems to me like it is a minor detail to either amend Resolution 2020-002 or to pass another resolution, 003 or 4,
Well, the only...
to address that extra compensation issue down the road once we can identify the impact of such an amendment. And we would have every right to do that once we can identify the fiscal impact of such a
Well,
decision.
that'd be what I would kind of like to do is, as we look at this resolution, if we could, I've been telling everybody that called in, and what you're asking doesn't indicate that they're not going to get paid, because we have decided they're going to get paid and everything.
We've decided what?
That everybody's going to get paid, And-
We haven't decided how long or how fully.
Well, we haven't decided if there's going to be any bonuses or anything that way for what you're talking about right now, because that involves council and whole budgeting process and everything on there. But this would reaffirm what we took up in our meeting the other day, that all of our folks that are home are going to be paid. And so I don't want any of them to think, because that question always pops up, am I going to get paid? And so this would kind of reaffirm again the resolution
Yeah, again,
that they're all going to get paid.
my statement that there's
Yeah.
no urgency means there's no legal urgency.
Yeah.
Whether there's a overriding policy urgency is your determination.
Yeah,
I
it's-
certainly acknowledge there may be.
I'd rather go ahead and pass this, because that confirms everything that we've said so far and what's been published in the paper, what we decided the other day. And then if we do have something else, I don't mind looking at another resolution or something.
So the only
like
change
that.
I would propose to make in 7B would be that it would read, all on-call employees shall be able to report in an unimpaired state to their regular workplace, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
We don't want
I
to,
assume that only affects regular working hours. I mean,
Correct.
it's not- doesn't mean emergencies.
Correct, I think it,
I
Yeah.
think that's addressed in paragraph A above paragraph B, Denny.
but I
They shall
could,
be considered on-call during their regular non-overtime work hours and shall provide their supervisor.
I agree it is, but I'm more than happy to add that for clarification, because what a lawyer reads into the document, and those that have been around lawyers more than they probably would like, read into it, may not be what everybody else reads into it. So I would be more than happy to say,
You could address that by saying, while on-call, comma, employees shall be able.
well, on-call during their regular non-overtime work hours.
Okay, does that satisfy you, Denny?
Yes, it does.
That's a
Okay.
good suggestion.
All right, very good. Denny?
I would move that we adopt ordinance 2020-02.
Would you accept an amendment to make that resolution? 20?
Yes.
I will second that motion.
Unanimous, well, wait a minute, you got to call the roll. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're going alphabetically. Mr. Burns, your vote.
Aye.
Mrs. Butters.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye. Motion or resolution passes 2020-002.
I'll get a cleaned up copy of it back.
Okay, all right,
Database.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I've got right now. I did
Okay.
work with Bob Warner on a contract, I don't know if
Now,
he's...
on this, at 1:30 this morning, the Senate passed a generous $2 trillion package
Package.
that is going to extend benefits that instead of having a $390 weekly maximum for unemployment benefits, they're going to pay 100% of unemployed workers' pay for up to 4 months, which, as I understand it, will not exclude the lion's share of county employees, our county employees. And my feeling is, with our forecasted revenues being down in the future, I would like to have the federal $2 trillion revenue source pay our employees rather than our smaller county revenue continue to pay those work-at-home people. So I would want to just plant the seed of us considering making every effort for our county employees who are continuing to work at home and being on call to go on that federal revenue source for 100% of their income. This is unprecedented, but that package that passed the Senate at 1:30 this morning is unbelievably generous.
So you're suggesting terminating them so they can get unemployment?
I don't want to mess up their perf. I don't want to do anything
Well, it
else.
would stop their perf and it would stop their medical. wouldn't it?
We might have to have some really clever legal work done on this.
I think, Mary Ann, that bill is so many pages long. I know what you're hearing. I think we need to wait until we hear some
I
details.
just want to watch it
And,
carefully,
Well,
because continuing 100% payment while our revenue, because let's face it, as property tax revenue has gone down thanks to the constitutionally amended guaranteed property tax caps, and our reliance on income tax has gone up, we realistically must accept the fact that our income tax revenue is going to go down in 2020.
I'm not sure I would agree with that, but.
I don't agree with that either.
I don't agree with that. And
Frankly, I don't support anything that would terminate any county employee
Yeah.
just to make them eligible for this federal package. I totally oppose that.
I think, I understand what Mary Ann is saying on there, and yes, I think we should watch it, but it's awfully hard for me to think that the federal government would come in here and take over our entire payroll, because we have all of our people at home, and I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think
couldn't
that bill
believe
was
it.
well over 1,000 pages or something, if I recall.
Well, the highlight reel says that unprecedented payment of 100%, I mean, up to like 75, this wouldn't cover our highest end.
Yeah.
It's like up to $75,000, which, would cover almost all of the county
Yeah.
employees.
Well-
But it's an unprecedented generosity of
Very
continuing
much
that,
so.
because it is perceived to be for a limited period of time of 4 months.
My guess is if you really get into the detail, they're looking at folks like maybe a waitress that is losing her job. Our folks are secure here and are going to get paid where that waitress is not going to get paid. And I can't believe they would come into us and take over our entire payroll and pay our folks, because all of our folks are eventually home.
And I think it'd be fraud for
Oh,
us
my
to take any action that would transfer our legitimate salary ordinance to somebody else to pay. That's outrageous, and it's not fair to those people who really need this package set aside by the government.
I do not think, I think it's irresponsible for us not to take a serious look at our revenue forecasts. Because if you drove by our major places of employment this week and you see empty parking lots where there used to be hundreds of cars, we must accept the fact that our income tax revenue is going to be down in 2020. We are going to have to accept the fact that Wayne County tax revenue is going to be down.
Yeah, you've already said that. Why should we be exempt from the hardship that comes with this emergency. Of course, it's going to be down. We'll have to deal with that.
Okay, we'll watch it. We'll watch
I mean,
it, yeah.
it's
yeah,
time to
right.
start planning for the budget for 2021. So I think for us to now strategically to start accept the fact that we're going to have to start some pretty serious belt tightening. We do not want to think about it, but I think we must strategically, from a policy standpoint, start seriously, starting with our meeting next week, be examining some forecasting on some serious revenue reductions that are going to start happening in 2020. Because our property tax revenues cannot be increased, and because our income tax revenues will go down.
Well, we'll find out. Okay, Steve?
Life does go on in other places. Our work on our courthouse HVAC system continues, even with the
I am
restrictions.
not hearing Steve at all.
Okay, is that mic on? Why don't you come on up here, Steve? We're going to move him. We're going to move him up here. He's at the front podium. He's going to come up here, Denny.
Okay.
I'll move down closer to Mary Ann.
We'll put you in between. He's now.
Put the phone where you are.
Yeah.
All right, work continues on the HVAC project. The cooling tower is in, and the hookup should be completed by the end of this week. We were intending to work on the third floor HVAC system because the judges were supposed to be out next week for a conference. I suspect that that's been canceled, but that work still must continue to go on, so hopefully the weather will cooperate so we don't have any big extreme changes in the weather, because those systems that serve the courtrooms will be down for a period of time. And then after that's done, we're still on schedule to finish up the project by mid-April. Jail bond project, again, still continues, even with the restrictions that are in the jail. Each time that the contractor's workers go in the jail, they get their temperatures checked, and they have to go in through one checkpoint. So it is a little bit time-consuming for them to all get to their workstations, especially if they have to go in and out to get equipment and tools. But they're still maintaining that operation to do that. The security equipment, we're still on schedule. I've not heard anything from DLZ, the contractor. I do know that they have started sending some of their workers to work from home. I'm assuming that they can still do what they need to do. Haven't heard any change in the scheduling, so we should receive the bid documents for our review next week, and then it will come to you on April 15th. We will start, recall the conversation we had about relocating the guardian ad litem office. One of the things that we had to do was to find a dedicated 20-amp circuit for the vending machines as we move those. As the courthouse has limited options for that type of individual circuits, just simply because of the old structure that it is. But we did, I think we found one in that particular area up in the ceiling that was previously used for when the health department was there. There used to be rooms in that area, and Dale believes that we've got a dedicated circuit that we can run from a panel that's in the current CASA room. So I think we've overcome that. Obviously, once that's done, the vending company comes in and will move the equipment.
So you're saying put the vending machines in that western corridor
Yep.
and move into the current vending
Yeah,
area?
yeah.
Has that caused any, have the judges had any objection to that?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
I was afraid they're without any windows.
We actually met with them to make sure it was
So,
okay.
because it's a
Yeah.
downgrade without any windows, I mean, the current occupant probably won't like the new quarters, but the judges are okay.
That's gonna be a nice office when it's all done, and no guarantees you have to have a window in every office. Most people don't have a window.
And that current secondary office doesn't have to be occupied by copy paper, right?
No, we're going to,
No, that's all
that'll be
part of
taken
the
out.
office.
That's not the highest and best use of that room.
Well, the room's going to be removed.
That's all gonna,
Okay, good.
see, that'll double the size of that room,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, that is not exactly.
But we're still not quite, I mean, I got to meet, I had conversation with Judge Horn yesterday, and I assured him that before we do anything in that area, that he'll have an opportunity to,
Okay.
yeah,
And
give
I
his
would
opinion.
hope that that corridor with the vending machines can be appointed in a somewhat more attractive way than the current furnishings that are kind of, shall we say, mid-century yard sale.
Those actually belong to the vending company. They're not ours. Those tables and chairs in there,
The tables and chairs belong to the vending company?
yep.
Ew,
They,
can we give them back?
well,
That's up to-
you know, we're
That's
under,
a contract, we're under contract with that, and,
Let's get a reduction and give them the furniture back. That-
doesn't
that
quite,
is-
it doesn't quite work that way,
yeah,
Yeah.
but all that equipment in there belongs to them. And
yeah.
The, changing gears then, the State Weights and Measures Office is closed through April 7th, which puts just a little bit different wrinkle because, you know, when we do have a water in gas complaint, we take the initial complaint, then the state actually does the investigation. So with them being closed through the 17th, they're responding to almost emergency calls only. So it puts a little bit back on our staff, but we are still operating. We're just not doing routine inspections in closed areas. We're not doing grocery stores or anything of that sort upon direction from the state to do that. So any inspections that we are doing are outside. Certainly with the weather, hadn't been real conducive to do that, but we still continue to function in that area. The city has requested, and I sent them a copy of, excuse me, the proposed properties that will go in the commissioner sale, which has been postponed until sometime in June, I think. But the city has requested some properties off that list. As you know, these have all gone to the court that they can be put into your name, and there's some properties on here that have shown up traditionally on this list, and we've chosen not to put them in our name. But now the city is requesting these properties, which I think in the end will be a good thing.
But do we know they have an end game and plan for all of them?
Well, according to this email that I just gave you, this is from the city,
I know.
and it says it is their intentions to remediate the properties, demolish the buildings, and then sell the parcels once they are able to begin revenue, generating revenue for those properties.
This is in addition to those residential properties?
Yes.
And the Bradford?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, in fact, this includes.
Bradford is Justin Buckner.
Yeah, so those first,
Okay.
those first 6 properties are the Hofco, that's the
problem, yeah.
the problem area.
Why?
Why?
This is exciting.
What is? It's a good thing, I think. Now,
Woo-hoo.
the J Street property, I wasn't really familiar with this one, and this is an older photo, but it's a boarded-up building down near the recycling center. And so that's the J Street property. Then, of course, the 1200 East Main is the Bradford building. And then the F Street property is that Warfield oil property
Property, yeah.
that has had phase one of a cleanup.
Clean up, right, yeah, they've got to.
They cut their underground tanks out, that's about all they did. They did some,
Just preliminary surface
Some-
work, no,
yeah, they haven't done
Haven't done a
any
full-
type of soil remediation.
that's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do know they are planning to do that, Ron.
Now, I know, Ron, you've had communication back with the city attorney. Are we comfortable? Because once we put these in our name to transfer to the city.
I want to know what their timeline is and what their funding source is, but I mean, I'm sure we want to cooperate, because these are community eyesores, and they're, you know, just as with Old Reed, there was not much we could do about it until there was an end game in place.
Yeah,
So,
right.
not that I doubt their intentions and honesty and sincerity, but I think the more we know, the better your decision can be.
We ought to talk about this.
Well, I mean,
That's why I brought it up.
yeah, I mean,
In all the conversations I've had with them, and the two that I've really talked on was Bradford's and Warfield Oil Company. But I can't give you their exact plans, but their plans is to
But
clean it all up.
Of the two, of everything listed here, I can tell you, those two would probably pale into financial insignificance when compared to the cleanup cost of the Northwest F properties.
Right,
Based upon the history of the usage of that building, it goes back to the Richmond fireproof door, heavy metals.
right. That's gonna be years.
I mean, and that used to be a gravel parking lot. I know, I played baseball in it. And,
that
which
was,
means,
that was a long
You turned
time.
out all right.
in basketball, they hadn't cut the bottom out of the net yet.
Yeah, that's right.
And you don't glow in the dark, do you?
I don't know. So, you know, that's going to be expensive, because there's a lot of exposure.
And I'm not sure we have thoroughly vetted the investor's ability to totally clean that up.
Yeah, that'd be the city.
If we give it to them,
Yeah.
they will be responsible for determining potentially responsible parties. I mean, they would,
Yep.
that was the understanding with Old Reed. I don't really know where they are on that, if anywhere.
Right.
So what do you need,
What further do you want? I mean,
what do you want to move forward?
I'll make
with
a
this?
contact to AJ. I think, you know, I mean, there's no terrible urgency since the commissioner's deed sale's been postponed. And
Right.
I'm not sure I have the date to which
June
it's
24th, does that sound right?
I was trying to remember what Selena said on that. I was thinking 25th, but I don't
Yeah,
remember
something.
now. Yeah.
Where are we on
Now-
getting clear title for all these properties?
We've not taken
It'd
any
be
action.
25th.
25th?
24th is a Wednesday.
Okay. So
We've not taken any action on taking titles to these. They have gone through the judge's order. He has ordered that we can do it, so that's done.
I think Selena gave this information to Steve for us to look at, and I think she's wanting to move on with the process. So I think we need to find out for sure whatever else we might want on this, so we can firm it up and get it set. I don't know what you want, whether you want something in writing. I mean, Beth Fields, you know, it's said here, you know, that they want it.
I guess, why would we care?
Well, as long as they're agreeable to take title
Exactly. I mean,
contemporaneously with our taking title.
whatever they do with it.
It's up to them,
It's
yeah.
up to them,
Quickly.
and
See,
In the past, with the blight properties, sometimes we would hold them in our name for 12 months, 18 months. That's the timing is what we want
Yeah,
to
but
make sure.
a $12,000 demo of a
of a building.
blighted property is a lot different than this $5 million cleanup of Old Reed, or the, probably an access, I don't know. It takes somebody with knowledge of environmental contamination.
It would seem to me our only, not that we don't want,
Their only exposure is if they back out.
that's right. What they do with it after we give it to
Oh,
them, it's still the same property,
Right.
whether we,
It's just somebody, you know,
Somebody else
somebody else's
owns it.
burden, it's all.
yeah. So,
We need some assurance that we're not going to be stuck holding the deed to this thing.
so
I'll talk to
you want to have
AJ
that
and we'll see if we
conversation,
can,
what that might look like?
probably just a simple letter from the mayor,
I would
he'll
think.
support it.
Yeah.
Now it's up to council to,
And that each one of the properties that we're gonna sell from, you know, for what we've always done, I think was $250.
well, we combined that for the Reed parcels, I think, didn't we? Put them all
That's right.
together. I don't
Or
remember.
whether we just.
I mean, you know, if we can get rid of all these properties
Oh, yeah.
for and waive the
Oh.
250, I think, again, back to perspective, I think that's a good deal for us.
Just so we hold it for a nanosecond.
Yeah. But we're not an operator.
Nanosecond.
We're
Okay,
protected
if you
under.
get with AJ, that'll be fine.
Yeah, as far
Okay.
as EPA liability goes, we're protected as a non-operator in that contemporaneous transfer mode. Now, if we
Okay.
sit on them for a couple of years, I'm not,
That's different.
Okay,
Okay,
so
what else?
I'll wait from direction from you after that conversation. Just to follow up on your treasurer's mailbox, we're modifying this box too. It came in as a simple mailbox like you would see sitting in front of the courthouse out here. And so we're modifying it to put extra locks on it, actually a bar with padlocks on it. We're going to fasten it to the ground out here in the parking lot. It'll be within sight of our south camera here. And I think
24-hour video surveillance.
yeah, so I think we'll end up chaining it to the tree as well. So,
How about a barrier so a
Well-
truck couldn't hit it and knock it
you know,
over?
I meant, it's going to be right next to a tree, and so if they hit the tree, hit the box, they're going to hit the tree
Well, I
as
don't care what the
well.
barrier is, it's just a truck could really bust it open.
I don't disagree with that.
But
There's not a good place, because
Depending how you do it, they'd have to hit the cars that are on that side also before they hit the mailbox.
we'll figure out something.
Concrete blocks stacked up so it can't, or something.
We'll put our Viet Cong barriers by it.
Or
We
a
have-
steel tube or something.
Yeah,
But
but
there are
then,
things we can do. We have talked to Mike about that. He said he has, like you said, some of the concrete, if we need that we can put in there.
I suppose I could
So-
fill a barrel with sand or something. I don't
Just
know.
something, because that's, look at what links bad guys go to get ATMs.
Oh, I don't disagree. I'm not even suggesting to you that this is a good idea, but
Right.
this
That's
is
what they
something.
wanna do.
I'm not making any recommendations that you do this. I'm simply following what the treasurer wants.
Right.
And it needs to have really clear communication, no cash.
Wow.
Well, now, she's fully aware of all of
That's-
that, and
yeah.
let's just say the clerk and the treasurer are talking about that as to what they can do and what will be able to be put in there. Yeah. I don't really want to talk about that on television, so, okay?
Well, there will be no cash in this box.
Well-
Absolutely no cash.
No, just,
You better have that conversation
Yeah.
with them, because
they're working it out, and there possibly may be, so.
but that's not my decision. I'm
The
simply,
cash will self-destruct upon entry to this
I'm
box.
simply putting the box in place upon her instructions.
Right.
We've canceled all the events at the fairground through April, and I'm not sure at what point in time we consider beyond that, whether we need to start, because as I have discussion with Mary Ann V. at the fairgrounds, a lot of the vendors need pretty good lead time to change their event or cancel event, because they've had mailers and advertisement and things of that sort go out. So we've done it through the end of April. I suggest probably revisit this again next week, the 1st of April, to start looking at May. I don't think we have any crystal ball, but we got to be able to give these people who rented this ahead of time some guidance.
While you're still at the fairgrounds, I don't think anybody in the extension office was copied on the work-at-home policy.
That's all Purdue University. They have their own policy.
Well, not,
Well,
not
there's a couple.
There's some county employees in the Purdue office.
Purdue issued their own work at home for Jonathan and
Right, which
whatever.
is different from ours.
But
So I don't think Debbie got that. And our county employees,
I have to look at my distribution. I can't confirm she did or didn't.
I don't think she was on it. And, there's some offices that are kind of weird since they don't have it.
Jonathan received it.
Okay,
Right, so
Jonathan did.
Jonathan
He is
got it.
our supervisor,
Right.
Okay,
but I can confirm, Jonathan got it, but I don't know if Debbie got
Okay.
it personally.
we've just got some weird offices like that. Okay, Soil and water got it too?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Good,
yeah.
okay.
Then in all this, the IT server room air conditioning went down yesterday. And as you well know, that was put in prior to me coming for Bill Smith's spot, so it's at least 10 years old and it runs 24 hours a day. So it has more of a life of about 20 years. But we've got it up and running, so, but that's something we're gonna have to consider here of what we're gonna do with that unit in the IT server room. And then we found it almost a little gift, if you will. We had a stash of 1,200 masks in our maintenance building that we found. And they are those N95s or whatever that number is. But we'd had them purchased since the H1N1 virus scare back when and so we had a pretty good gift of masks that we could give the health director.
Is she going to keep them there or disperse them with the
I think
reading?
she's going to disperse them.
She's already dispersed some of them to the retirement homes and stuff, and
Yeah.
so she was happy to get them, and they are distributed.
We kept a few for ourselves, but
To EMA?
no, for building grounds.
Yeah, and how about EMA?
They haven't asked us for any, so I assume they have their own stash. I don't provide masks to anybody but our own office.
Did they have an expiration date?
I don't know. That question has come up, but I think at this point, they're willing to use anything that exists.
Well, in Ohio, some of the cities there have gone to requesting donations from private businesses.
Well, I see Joanne Fabrics and what's the other one have started
Building.
donating
Hobby Lobby.
material
Material to
for
build,
making
to make
masks.
masks.
And
Yeah.
Reed is accepting
Yeah.
homemade masks
Yeah.
for their Facebook presence. I don't know how they're going to use them, but they're accepting them.
Yeah. That's all I got.
okay.
Which reminds me, Hobby Lobby has posted a defiance of all governmental demands that they close their retail operations.
And
How do we address that from a law enforcement standpoint? I haven't been out there to see if they are still
Open or not.
Maybe they're closed to the public, but they said they're doing car deliveries of the product to make masks.
Is that
They
what they're
said-
doing? Okay.
Online, they said they would give the product to the individual at their car. Now, they may still be open, but
Okay.
yeah, we wouldn't have any authority to say if they're open or shut them down.
I mean,
just-
if there's a bar or restaurant that is wide open and got a crowded,
Well, that's a little different because
what
they
is
have
the
a,
sheriff doing?
well, they have a license that if you listen to what the governor said.
Yeah, I
And
did.
okay, well, then you got your answer. You don't have to ask us. He's going to take their license away from them. And they can do that. That would be a former employee of ours, and I'm sure is out supervising all that.
Okay, here's my question. Amish are concerned, and you're getting Amish questions too about, we have a lot of Amish businesses in Wayne County. And the question posed to me yesterday, I guess I'm just asking for retroactive, did I answer correctly?
So I don't know what the question was, or.
I'm just posing this, I guess,
I would say
wrong.
you would tell the Amish everything that we're telling everybody else. With this disease we have, the Amish are as acceptable to get it as anybody else, so everything we're telling all of our citizens in Wayne County would apply to them.
I
Now,
have been told that
that's up to
EMA,
them.
sheriff, and health
Yeah.
made contact with the Amish bishops.
They actually met with the bishops.
Yeah, and I'm sure
The
they're
sheriff
telling them,
did.
I'm sure they're telling them the
As
same
well
thing
as
we're
EMA
telling everybody.
and
Yeah.
Christine.
And health, yes.
Well, there's a rumor afloat that I have proclaimed that the Amish are exempt from these orders.
No. Oh, I hadn't heard that.
But there's a rumor in the Amish community, however it's getting texted out there, I don't know. I said, no, I have made absolutely no proclamations to that effect. I maybe said, yes, the Amish may continue to milk their cows. The governor has not said that the Amish can no longer milk their cows. But the question was, may I, as a carpenter, continue to build my gazebos or do my carpentry and continue to build my outbuildings, whatever they may be, on my own property, and, you know, with my own family members, with my own property, and continue to build these outbuildings on my own property. And as I read the governor's order, that certainly is within the guidelines as stated.
It's outdoor exercise.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And then they said, well, may my customers come shop on my property? And I said, as I read that, and you may read it as clearly as I, that would be like, you know, the car dealers are not happy about not having people come shop at their dealerships for cars, so that would, you know, you're subject to that shopping at your dealership just as the car dealers are. So my answer to you is no, they may not come to your property and shop for your goods.
You're right on.
However,
Uh-oh.
as I read the governor's order, he has not stopped delivery of goods to your customers. How do you normally get your goods from your place of manufacture to your customer's place of purchase, or to your customer? He said, well, we normally put them on a trailer and have these gazebos delivered to our customers' home. Oh, as I read the governor's order, if you have your gazebo delivered, that's okay. Ron, did I overstep?
I don't know, I'd have to, I mean, I'm not really going to go too deep in trying to construe the governor's
But I was right to
executive
say, no,
orders.
you can't have your customers come shop at your...
I think that'd
That's
be
right.
outside the purview. I agree.
Doesn't the governor have a number that you can call, that you can ask those questions directly to him?
They do have a hotline, Danny, you're absolutely correct. If a business has a question,
Well, I just wanted to address the question that, no, I had not made a blanket proclamation that the Amish are exempt from the governor's order.
I'm glad you didn't do that, but any questions I'm getting, I'm referring them to the governor's office, not me.
they do have the hotline set up, and I don't have the number
Well,
memorized, but you
they
can
had
call.
announced that the hotline was overwhelmed yesterday, and that, you know, it was overwhelmed, and they were addressing getting it underwhelmed.
It's back up and running. It
It's
was back up and running yesterday.
It is
Someone
running
asked
now.
me a question,
Yeah.
I referred them to the hotline, they
Right.
called me back and let me know what the hotline told them, and they
Right.
had that done in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Did the
Okay.
governor do anything yesterday of substance? No,
Yeah, he just updated what his emergency personnel were doing.
Okay,
Does
so
anybody
there's no
have
new
that
executive,
hotline handy?
no new executive orders.
I don't have it handy, I don't think.
I have
What's
it
that?
Do you have the number?
somewhere, I have about 10 pages
No.
of
He just reported that how the places are ramping up, making more masks.
I'm not hearing Steve at all.
Steve said he,
It's not important.
that the governor,
It wasn't important.
he said it wasn't important, but he was just updating what the governor said yesterday, which basically was just an update,
Okay.
yeah.
But doesn't the governor say that deliveries were continuing, I mean, deliveries are okay, I mean, Amazon is running at a pretty good clip, right? And not just food and prescriptions?
That's all part of the transportation.
That's all
The deliveries are
essential.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, people are
That's
having
all
diapers
essential.
delivered and all
Oh, yeah.
kinds of
That's all,
hardware
that's
and
all okay, it's all in there.
Furniture.
Yeah. Okay,
You are not done.
I know you've got a couple of things, yes.
Denny, it's Beth Fields on behalf of Bob Warner. Bridge 37 on Estep Road, the USI contract, there's a supplemental. He did present that
Yes,
for
he
your approval. He spoke to you last week, so this is not a surprise, Ron. He said he knows you've been busy, but he hoped that you have reviewed this.
I gave him a letter yesterday.
yeah, he emailed us.
Okay, so is it still okay to sign? Okay.
They addressed the issues.
Oh, wait a minute. I am forwarding an updated contract with USI for Bridge 37 based on Ron's comments. So this is the one you want to sign. Let me take that
Okay.
back.
That's what
I thought I had
Carry
two
that
separate
back.
things.
We'll take
Sorry.
this. I would need a motion for,
I think that's just your signature, isn't it?
no, it requires all.
All three of us,
Yeah.
okay, because he emailed us that yesterday. I move for approval.
Second.
Oh, well, wait a minute. Call the roll. You got to call the roll.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Denny Burns.
Aye.
Mrs. Butters.
Aye.
Mr. Paust.
Aye.
Thank you.
This goes under all of
Just
that.
one copy, is that all it is?
That's all it's there.
He only gave me
Yeah.
one
Well,
copy.
that's unusual.
And I'm going to scan it back to him for his request.
Okay, there we go. You have anything else, Beth?
I do not.
Okay. Ron, you have anything else? Nope. Mary Ann?
Well,
What?
one heads up, because it'll be coming to you, so I don't want you to be surprised. Due to the shortage of personally protective equipment, Phillips Drugs has made available, reasonable amounts that they had available.
I read the email.
To the county health department, and that will, that kind of is a relaxing of the firewall, if you will, that was built up to where Phillips would not be a supplier for public health. But due to the emergency, I think, I think you will be getting a recommendation from the Board of Health to accept a conflict of interest disclosure from Pete Zaleski, who has a proprietary interest in that business, that will extend only to the period of this health emergency. So
Okay.
that'll be coming to you.
All right. Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm-
But not today,
I'm-
after the Board of Health accepts.
I think the
Correct.
Board of Health needs to act on
Do
it
it first.
At least,
I'm so pleased he stepped up, did the supplies that he sent we really needed, and so I'm glad we got them from him, yes.
I hope the Board of Health will be meeting. They did not meet in March at all, is that right?
we had 4 consecutive meetings scheduled. I didn't bring that. That's part of my COVID file I didn't bring. We had one scheduled for last week, which was postponed. The one for tomorrow will be postponed, but the one for the 12th, I think, will be,
April 12th.
April 12th will be held. I think and with some participation electronically by the members. And I think the thought was that by then, as opposed to the 5th, we might have a little bit better understanding of what executive orders are going to be continued, because most of them have an April 6th, 7th, and that area
Right.
sunset. And firstly, I expect them to be extended, but I mean,
I think
that's
so, too.
just my,
You know, as you
My-
watch what's happened West Coast, East Coast, they're ahead of us, definitely, and, we're just kind of in the early parts of this, so I'm with you, I really think it's probably going to be extended.
well, and I think the numbers that we're seeing suggest that as a country, we're still in the relatively
Early
early
stages.
stages. I
Yeah.
admire the president's optimism, but I don't know that when the Olympics were canceled the same day he expressed his hope to have Easter
Happy
open.
Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
But, we're looking at a mortality rate in the world of about, and again, this is a function of, how well they're tested, what the numbers are, about 4.5%, but in this country, we're at 1.3, and that's probably because we haven't got enough testing done.
Right.
And Indiana's at 3.3, so 12 deaths out of 365 positive cases as of whenever John Hopkins released that.
Released that, yeah.
So,
One concern I have, I don't know, been following that fever map of America. The Tesla company for 8 years has had an app that goes on your smartphone that also takes temperatures. And they have millions of people, that have this app that takes the human body temperature that goes into this nationwide database that has really been tracking basically the common cold and flu and that sort of thing, and has served as an early map of where the cold and flu outbreaks are about to occur, because the fever is the canary in the coal mine of where flu outbreaks are about to occur. Well, this Kansas company has been able to occur, predict where the COVID-19 outbreaks are about to happen. And of course, the hot spot in New Orleans and now Florida. They're saying, look out, Florida, because the fever map showed the New York. It really didn't predict Seattle. It was warm, but it wasn't hot. I think that was because of the Chinese travel that did not predict Seattle. But if you go to that weather map of the fever predictor, it was able to really show in the last 2 to 3 weeks where the hot spots are clearly Florida, New Orleans, New York. But what worries me is that Wayne County, Indiana, isn't a hot spot, but it's warm. For some reason, Union County is not. Ron, you're cool. But Delaware County is warm. Randolph County is warm.
I think as a state, we're miserably behind for our testing.
Your land values are higher, but your fevers are lower, so.
And part of it's density of people. What you've named is all where the higher populations are.
There's this east central Indiana cluster of warm temperatures.
Plus, they have a
And
residual
over into
population
Ohio.
disproportionate.
Then you get down in southern Indiana, it's lower. But it is just fascinating because this database is huge. It's probably the fit people that have the Fitbits and all that have signed on to this health nut kind of things that track. It was mainly put in schools where they could take children's temperatures and all this sort of thing, but also healthy people have this app that tracks millions of people's temperatures. But it's been a kind of a spooky bellwether as to kind of predicting where, because it's a constant, real-time taking of people's temperatures all over the country. So we're not red like Florida and New Orleans, but we're warm. So
Very good.
it's very interesting.
Okay, Denny, you have anything?
I do not.
All right.
Hey, are we going to have the ability at any time to video our meetings, other than through WCTV?
We have not, at this time, talked to Rich about that. He's so busy working with all the others that we've just, the video, we said now's not the time to work on that one. So, yeah, he's swamped with what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
Okay.
like a live stream?
We'll
Yeah,
adjourn.
because that just lets the media not have.